They said he never missed a service. He was the kind of man who shook hands, smiled, and prayed with everyone. So when he showed up at her funeral, tears in his eyes, voice trembling, nobody questioned it. But they should have, because the man crying the loudest that day was the one who made sure she'd never breathe again. Greenville, South Carolina, 2016. They looked like a picture-perfect couple. Rachel Dorsey, 28, a high school guidance counselor known for her kindness. Evan Cole, 32, a youth pastor at a small local church. They met at a community picnic in 2013. Everyone said they were meant to be. The type of love story people post online with hashtags and heart emojis. By 2015, they were married. Small ceremony, white roses, laughter echoing through the chapel. But behind closed doors, cracks started to show. Evan was controlling in small, quiet ways at first. He checked her phone, chose her clothes, asked where she was going, and why she needed to go alone. Rachel's friends noticed. They whispered, "He loves her too much." But love shouldn't feel like surveillance. And soon, it didn't just feel controlling. It felt dangerous. April 17th, 2016, a Sunday night like any other. Rachel stayed late at the school, helping a student with college applications. At 8:42 p.m., she texted her best friend, "Heading home now." She never made it. The next morning, a jogger found her car parked near Lake Ridge. Driver's side door slightly open, her purse still inside, phone on the passenger seat, keys in the ignition. But Rachel was gone. Police searched the woods for 3 days. Volunteers joined in. Evan led the prayer circles. Every interview, every vigil, he was there. He held Rachel's photo, choked on his words, and said, "She's my heart. Please, just bring her home." America loves a grieving husband, but grief can be a mask. For days later, a fisherman found her body, floating near the far side of Lake Ridge, wrapped in a bedsheet, her hands bound with duct tape. The autopsy revealed bruising on her arms and ribs, a broken jaw, and something else, traces of chloroform in her lungs. Police ruled it homicide. Detectives began with the obvious, the husband. They questioned Evan that same day. He cried, begged, prayed, said they'd been happy, said he'd been home the whole night, asleep. His alibi? A neighbor who saw his truck in the driveway at 10 p.m. Solid enough, at least at first glance. 2 weeks later, the town gathered at New Hope Baptist Church. Rachel's casket was white, her favorite color. Her mother couldn't stand. Her friends couldn't speak. And at the very front, near the pulpit, sat Evan, black suit, Bible in hand, tears streaming down his face. When the pastor invited him to say a few words, he stood up, voice breaking. "She was my angel," he said, "my reason to be better, and I don't know how to live without her." The crowd cried with him, but one person in the room didn't cry. Detective Leah Forrester. She watched him carefully, the way his tears stopped too quickly, the way his eyes scanned the room instead of her casket, and the way he smiled just slightly when everyone bowed their heads to pray. Detective Forrester wasn't convinced. She went over the timeline again. Evan said he went to bed at 9:30 p.m., but Rachel texted her friend at 8:42, and her phone pinged near Lake Ridge at 9:18. That was a 26-minute drive from their house. The math didn't fit. Then came a new lead from a gas station attendant near the lake. A man in a gray hoodie had stopped for fuel around 9:05 p.m. Security footage showed his vehicle, a white Ford F-150. Evan Cole drove a white Ford F-150. When police asked to search it, he refused, said it was a violation of his privacy. Detective Forrester got a warrant anyway. Under the back seat carpet, they found a small piece of duct tape, the same brand used to bind Rachel's hands. And beneath that, a single long brown hair, Rachel's. Evan said she'd ridden in the truck all the time. that it didn't mean anything. But the tape? He had no explanation. They brought him in again. He quoted scripture, said he forgave the real killer, said Satan was testing him. The more he talked, the more Detective Forrester felt it. That cold, steady certainty. He wasn't grieving. He was performing. But there was still no direct proof tying him to the scene. Then came the break. 3 weeks after the funeral, Rachel's best friend, Hannah Carter, found something. She'd gone to Rachel and Evan's house to pick up some clothes for donation. In Rachel's closet, she noticed a small blinking light on the wall. A hidden camera. Police recovered the memory card. Most of it was empty, but on the final clip, recorded just 1 week before Rachel's death, Evan was sitting on the bed, arguing with her. She said, "I'm not scared of you anymore." He said, "You will be." Then the feed cut out. That was enough for an arrest. State versus Evan Cole. The courtroom was packed. Reporters from every outlet lined the benches. The prosecution's case was simple. Jealousy, control, rage. Evan's motive was clear. Rachel had planned to leave him. Her suitcase, found hidden behind their dresser, proved it. The defense tried to paint him as a broken man, a husband who couldn't handle loss. But the jury wasn't buying it. When the footage of the argument played, you could hear gasps across the room. And when the photos of Rachel's injuries were shown, Evan looked away, not in sorrow, but in calculation. After 6 days, the jury returned a verdict. Guilty of first-degree murder. The town breathed again. Justice, they thought, had finally arrived. But 2 months later, Detective Forrester got a call from the county jail. A guard reported something strange. Evan had been writing letters. Dozens of them. Not to friends or family. To Rachel's grave. They were full of apologies and instructions. Each one included small, cryptic maps. Red XS drawn near different parts of Lake Ridge. At first, police thought it was rambling, but curiosity won. They searched one of the marked spots, an area near the far bank of the lake. What they found changed everything again. Buried inside a metal box were Rachel's missing jewelry, a small vial of chloroform, and a flash drive. On that flash drive, a video. It wasn't from Rachel's camera. It was from his. He'd filmed himself cleaning the crime scene, talking softly, quoting scripture about cleansing sin, and in the corner of the frame, you could see his reflection, smiling. The district attorney used the footage to update the record. But Detective Forrester did one more thing. She rewatched every video from Rachel's funeral, every local news clip, every phone recording. And in one frame, as the pastor lowered his head in prayer, Evan could be seen reaching out, his hand brushing the casket, his lips moving silently. An audio tech enhanced the sound. For words, whispered barely above breath. "Now you can rest." The courtroom went silent when it was played, because that wasn't mourning. It was confession. The judge called him a predator who hid behind faith. Evan Cole received life without parole. He didn't flinch. He just smiled at Detective Forrester as they led him away and said quietly, "I told her I'd never leave her." The words chilled everyone in the room because they weren't about love. They were about ownership. Rachel's mother still visits the cemetery every Sunday. She brings flowers, lilies, her daughter's favorite, and sits under the same oak tree where she watched her buried. Once a year after the sentencing, she found an envelope wedged under the headstone. Inside, a single sheet of paper, written in neat block letters. She wasn't supposed to fight back. No one knows who left it. Some think it was Evan's family. Others think it was his accomplice. But Detective Forrester believes it was him. One last message sent through another inmate. Greenville never forgot. Every year, the local paper reruns the headline. The pastor who sat in the front row. But most people only remember the surface. The killer, the trial, the confession. Few remember the silence before all that. How many people saw the warning signs and said nothing? The bruises Rachel covered with makeup. The nervous laughter at church. The way her eyes dimmed each time someone asked if she was okay. Those details didn't make the news, but they should have, because the monster didn't hide in shadows. He sat in the front pew, hands folded, smiling. 2 years after Evan's conviction, Detective Forrester got one last call from the state penitentiary. Evan had been found dead in his cell. Heart failure. Beside him, on the wall, written in pencil, "She forgave me." But the warden said something strange. When they searched his cell, they found dozens of folded paper cranes, each one made from a torn Bible page, and written on the inside of every single one. April 17 to 8:42 p.m., the exact time Rachel sent her last text. No one knows what it meant, but Detective Forrester thinks she does. She believes he relived that moment every day, the moment he took everything from her, until his heart finally gave out. Rachel's story spread far beyond Greenville. It became a documentary, then a podcast episode, then a warning. Because the truth is, monsters don't always hide in the dark. Sometimes they sit beside you in church. Sometimes they hold your hand at a funeral. Sometimes they wear your ring and call it love. And the people who look safest can be the ones who leave the deepest scars. Detective Forrester still keeps Rachel's case file on her desk. She says it reminds her why she joined the force. Not for justice, but for truth. Because justice comes late. But truth never dies. She said once in an interview, "When I saw him sitting in that front row, I didn't see grief. I saw possession. And I knew she wasn't the only one buried that day." Her piece was too. This is Hidden Case Files, True Crime, where silence screams, where the people you trust most hide the darkest secrets, and where truth, no matter how long it takes, always sits in the front row. Subscribe, because sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that look like love.